All right. Brew Boys Podcast. Here we go. Matt O'Connell. Welcome to the Brew Boys Podcast, sir.
Thank you so much, man. Happy to be here.
I'm so glad. So let's just start. I ask all the guests this. Where did you grow up and where were you raised?
Ooh, good question. Medford, Massachusetts is where I'm from. So right outside Boston.
Gotcha.
But I actually grew up in West Palm and ended up in St. Pete way later. A few stints back in Boston, a few stints around Florida, but yeah, love St. Pete.
Wow. Where were you when you left? How old were you when you left Boston?
Initially, 5, was in the West Palm area till college. Went to FSU, Golden Knowles.
Not this season.
Oh my God.
Absolutely not.
Went back to Boston for a few years after college, and then just came to check out St. Pete. Fell in love with it. I mean, growing city, great beer culture, and just decided to move down here, and have loved it ever since. So been here about 10 years now.
Wow. Okay. So when you came back to St. Pete, I mean, were you always in like, oh, this beer is what I want to do? Or did you fall into it? How did you get into the beer business?
Another good question. So actually, I kind of found it as a hobby in college. My girlfriend at the time, now wife,
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
of course.
15 years.
Wow. Okay. Nice.
We bought a homebrew book from Brooklyn Brew Shop and kind of just taught ourselves to homebrew and got really into it. I mean, beer was kind of really taken off. This was 2012 in Tallahassee. Actually, more like 2010. But by 2012, we had brewed a few batches at home. We had Proof, now very successful, amazing brewery. But they were just a craft beer bar back then. And that's where we kind of used to go for date nights.
Okay.
I didn't really drink before that. Got really interested.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't drink.
That's crazy.
I know, first 2 years of college, never. I really wasn't me. I just wasn't into it. And then,
it's great.
Just kind of became fascinated by it. FSU actually started a beverages program. So Wine and Culture was the first class. They also ended up doing a Ales and Lagers of the World class, a spirits class. So I was kind of one of the first ones through this program, and it was a wonderful program. Really taught me a lot. I always enjoyed cooking growing up, and this was kind of like another new avenue, another way to explore. I mean, I kind of look at brewing as cooking, a little bit more science in it, but essentially it's just another way to explore different ingredients, different recipes. And so we started homebrewing, got really into it, and I didn't really know if it was going to be a career, because I felt like at the time that we were graduating, if you didn't come from a family that was brewing, if you didn't grow up in brewing, if you didn't have a relative that brewed, there was still a lack of breweries at that point. So nobody was willing to teach you. It was like, oh, you don't have experience? Sorry. And I kind of lucked out when we moved back to Boston. Harpoon Brewing in Boston opened a brand new tasting room at the time and gave me a shot. And I mean, I just dove in. But from that first class, it was just opened up my mind. I was going to a completely different background, and an elective class actually excited me so much. I was like, I can actually see me doing this as a profession someday.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, Harpoon was the first one that gave me a shot.
Dang.
Spent 2.5 years there, and then came down here to St. Pete, worked with Green Bench Brewing for 7 years.
Okay.
And now, I've been at Grand Central just over 3 years now.
Wow, 3 years at Grand Central. Yeah. That's pretty impressive. So let's go backwards. And what was the first beer you ever brewed as a home brewer? I mean, that's got to be a pretty big beer for you, right?
It was actually because we got the book around the holidays. Yeah. It was a spiced apple brown ale.
Whoa, okay.
And actually, it was turned out way better than expected. There was some brews after that didn't go as well. I don't know why this one turned out so well, but yeah, we bought a homebrew kit, just a small. Our first fermenter I made out of a Carlo Rossi wine jug.
Oh my God.
Yeah, drilled a hole in the top of it, put some tubing in there. And,
there we go.
There you go. Baby's first carboy. Pretty interesting, but it was like an apple spice brown ale, awesome. And it turned out pretty good. I was surprised. Like it was carbonated when we opened it, and we bottle conditioned it because I don't have a way to like carb beer otherwise. And it didn't explode in my face.
That's fantastic.
And it tasted great. And yeah, that also kind of excited me. That got me really into it. Like, wow, I could actually do this. Like it's hard, it's difficult, it's very time consuming, but the reward was awesome. And like you're making beer in college, like your friends love you.
I mean, that's
like
fantastic.
I mean, honestly, at that point, I don't think really anyone cared what they were drinking.
Yeah, they were just drinking.
It actually tasted pretty good was awesome. And it was exciting. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it was really at the encouragement of my wife that like, you're pretty good at this, and we're having fun with it. So go for it. And
absolutely.
But I mean, I remember applying to some breweries, and it was just difficult times because like that's what I wanted to do right out of school. And absolutely. Like I said, if you didn't have that experience, it was just there wasn't a lot of people willing to give it.
I get that.
Like they wanted people that knew what they were doing right away. Right. And I feel like as brewing got more popular, especially in the mid 2010s, like breweries were popping up. They more people were willing to teach because they needed people who were not only interested but were willing to learn. And that's kind of like I learned a lot at Harpoon. I mean, I loved it, but I feel like I learned a ton at Green Bench, just about stylistically what you're looking for, beer etiquette, the importance of even as simple as something as a clean glass, just how much of a difference, like a glass where you're not having any sort of like bubble sticking to the side. I mean, things like that, just like nucleation points on a glass can really affect the overall appearance and the taste of a beer. And it's just super important. Like I learned so much more working there, and it just kind of excited me more. I wanted to keep going. And
yeah,
that's kind of what I've done. I've just expanded over the years. I've tried to learn everything that I can, and
absolutely,
it's been an awesome career path.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it. So if we take a step back to Harpoon Brewing and you getting in there, and what was the toughest challenge you think you faced there as far as being going from a home brewer to a legitimate brewer or even an apprentice brewer? What was the toughest challenge you faced as far as like, okay, this is what I want to do, and then you face something that's like, wow, I don't know if I can?
Harpoon's a very large company. They've been around since the early 80s. Their barrel output when I got there was 125,000 barrels, like massive.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And now coming like to a brewery where our barrel output in a year is 650.
Right.
And also even with Green Bench, it was also very small. When I started there, our barrel output was 500 barrels. And by the time I left, we were sitting at about 7,500. And then to come smaller, even still, and be at like 400 barrels, and now getting to 650, it's like, what I learned is like Harpoon was very structured in a good way. I think that, they were willing to teach, but like it was a very work hard, play hard environment. Like if you just couldn't cut it, they wouldn't keep you around. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It was just like, it was a very thought after job. Like they wanted the best of the best. Right. And like, I've never kind of shied away from work. I mean, I'm just a workaholic. I love what I do. And I put a lot of time and effort and passion into this. So, that was very structured, but it taught me a lot about like what a good manager should look like and what they should do to model like good behavior for employees, and to never worry about like rolling up your sleeves and getting in there. And it's easy for some people to sometimes sit back and just kind of like let their workers work. I don't want to ever say that I like micromanage, but you have to show them that you're also willing to do the work.
Of course.
I want to get my hands dirty. I want to help out where I can. I never want my staff to feel like I don't care or I'm not productive with them. So for me, I mean, that was one thing that Harpoon showed. Like everyone pulled their weight. And it was, we had a lot of staff. I mean, that tasting room is massive. On any given weekend, you had, between running tours and the merch side and the bar. I mean, there was about 30 some odd employees that were on.
Gosh. Yeah.
And that's a company of over 400 employees total between 2 facilities.
That's a lot.
That's brewing, that's tasting room, that's everything. But it's also a very interesting scenario where I've worked a lot of jobs in hospitality, but I've never seen a company that brought together a group of individuals that were really different, but they loved beer and they loved each other. Like when we would go out after work, a group of we had about 70 tasting room employees total, 30 on at any given time.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But you would put out a blast on Facebook back then, hey, in our private group, hey, I'm going out after work. And 70 people would roll into a bar because everyone wanted to hang out with everybody.
Yeah,
and
right.
I don't know if that was ever the goal to create that culture,
of course.
But it happened, and it was amazing to see that many people that it was like a family. I mean, super close knit, and I still keep in touch with a lot of those people. And
wow, that's amazing.
A lot of them have moved to other breweries around the country. Just kind of expanded what they're doing, but it's every once in a while. I mean, we still try to get together as a group. We actually do a Harpoon anniversary where we
that's awesome.
Try to plan a trip and meet up as a big group. So I've just never seen that before. I don't know if this being at Grand Central probably the closest to that. We have a great staff here, and I think that that's super important. I think that that's one of the things that sets us apart from a lot of breweries is this staff has worked together for a long time. We don't have a lot of turnover. We have a lot of people that care about the product, they care about the business, and they care about each other. And it just makes a huge difference. On certain days, when you come in at a certain time, who's going to be here.
Right.
It's the same people time and time again. They want to be here. They want to grow this business in a very tough beer environment too these days. So it's just really cool to see that we don't have a huge staff because we're not a huge company.
Right.
Buildings sometimes give off the appearance of we are a big corporate place. We are not. We have one owner. We have 17 employees total. That includes our owner, our brewers, our front of the house. That's everybody.
Wow.
So we're pretty small, but we're a tight-knit family. And I don't say that lightly. We genuinely care about each other.
No, it absolutely seems like that as well.
Sometimes we argue as family.
That happens. I feel like that's life. Yeah.
But overall, we are a really tight knit group, and I love that about this place.
That's fantastic. Absolutely. And if we go from the Harpoon to Green Bench, mm-hmm. What did you learn at Green Bench that you feel benefited you so much to be a general manager at a place like Grand Central?
I think their leadership there. Chris Johnson, their head brewer, is by far one of the smartest guys I've ever met, but probably the smartest brewer I've ever met. That man just taught me a wealth of knowledge. I mean, when I first got to Green Bench, beer was still new in this area specifically. Green Bench has the first brewing license in St. Pete. Wow. Cycle, it was, also right there, but that was pretty much it at the time.
Gotcha.
And Chris was trying very experimental stuff at the time. I mean, he was really the person to write the book on kettle souring, which, as far as we know, sours were made true Belgian lambic was made from barrel aging and using wild yeast strains, wild bacteria. These were beers that took a lot of time to make, a lot of effort, and you had to use the natural fauna and flora, which we don't always have here. We don't have all these, yeast and bacteria strains in the air like they do there, just to leave open fermenters.
Yeah.
You get something sour, but it wouldn't always be good. But Chris was making amazing sour IPA. They made a beer that was called Surrealist IPA, and that beer just blew my mind. IPAs typically are you have to drink them fresh. Mm-hmm. So the first time I had an IPA it's hoppy, but it's also sour. I was mind boggled. I was like, how did you not age this and the hops didn't get stale? And how did you make this wonderful creation that's tropical, it's tart, it's floral, it's all these beautiful things.
Right.
And really it was just about this process of kettle souring and about how to keep this environment in your kettle where you're letting the bacteria flourish at a certain temperature in an environment where there's not oxygen, there's not going to be any exposure to and no way to damage the beer. And just from there, I mean, he started experimenting with lagers. It's what he always wanted to do, and like really coming back to beer flavored beer, like
absolutely,
like what brewers want these days, which what I want. Like it's you can put as many adjuncts in a beer as you want,
of course,
but to make a truly spectacular lager, something light and crisp without any sort of off flavor, it's one of the hardest things to do. And this man, everything that he's tackled and taught and just done in his career, I mean, I've been truly amazed. Like the fact that I got to learn by him, under him, and we did all these trainings and tastings, and just to try to be the best of the best in the area. I mean, really, they set the standard in this area. They're approaching 11 years old. Congratulations, guys!
Shout out Green Bench.
Yeah, I mean that's still part of my family.
Absolutely.
I spent a lot of time there, and I don't take that for granted. Like I learned a lot there, and they're good people. I needed a little bit of a new challenge, a new environment.
Absolutely.
That was just me. I needed to expand my horizons, just like Chris did. But
most definitely,
like the biggest thing that I just learned from him is, I mean, cleaning processes very important. They use a lot of wild yeast strains. They use a lot of bacteria, things that a lot of people don't venture to use. More so, when you're in an all clean lager brewery. You don't want to bring in things that could damage other beers. And Chris he has a way of like, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to brew what I want. I'm going to make the best of the best. And I mean, we pushed the envelope on so many beers, and it was a really exciting time. It still is exciting. The industry's changed a bit, but man, the things that he has done in his career it inspired me to keep going and to keep learning. You never stop learning.
Absolutely. So going from Green Bench, learning from Chris, what do you think transitioned into Grand Central, and how did you get into Grand Central? And then with getting into Grand Central, how do you think it's evolved into what it is today?
When I came to meet with Grand Central, there was kind of a period there leading up after COVID. Like there's a lot of uncertainty with a lot of industry. Craft beer went from one of the best years ever in 2019 to kind of a complete standstill. And
why was it a complete standstill?
Well, with Florida being closed, and closed more than once. That was the other thing is, we shut down in March. We opened back up in June, and we kind of prematurely opened. Like there was about a week period where the city was trying to open back up. We were allowed to sell like to-go product, but none of the businesses, you couldn't like sit in a restaurant, you couldn't sit at a brewery,
right?
You couldn't do any of those things. So from having our best year ever to being able to just sell to go really hurt the business. A lot of employees were let go or furloughed just across the industry. There was just a lot of uncertainty. So going from the best year to being able to not really sell beers, it was tough. So, come June, we think that things are getting better. We think that we can open back up. We were open for about a week, and everything had to shut back down. And it just got to be a difficult time for all of us. So we were trying to figure out like what our next move was, and I contemplated leaving the industry for a minute. Just trying, maybe trying something different. I wasn't really sure of like the stability of it anymore. Right. And that's when kind of Grand Central reached out to me, and I kind of took it as a new opportunity. And I took it as just a new challenge. I met with them, and I was still just unsure of if I wanted to keep going in this industry. Right. Like I just felt like COVID was such a hard point in everybody's lives. I was, kind of going through depression. It was just a rough time for everybody. So I didn't know if I wanted to stick with the industry. And I met our owner, Kevin, and he just, I mean, his determination to make this place a success, the styles of beer he wanted to make, the fact that he wanted to give back to the community. I mean, just everything about him just excited me again. It kind of reinvigorated me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It made me want to work for this person.
Yeah.
Like, it just, yeah, really, it was him. He blew my mind as to everything amazing. He was going to do. So I decided to give it a try. And I mean, when I came in, we were 6 months old. And here we are approaching our 4th birthday. And like, the industry is forever changed from COVID. There's new obstacles every day. But like, I love what I do and I love tackling them here. And I love trying new events and trying to educate a newer generation on beer and what we're doing, because it's not just about coming in and drinking beer. It's about like, why do we do what we do? Why do we brew these beers? And like, why is it important? Why has lager been around for as many years as it has? I mean, IPAs are still reigning king right now, but like, the traditional crispy lagers are never going to go away. And like, it's beer flavored beer is where it's at. And it's what we try. It's what we try to do.
Absolutely.
And it's what we do really well.
Yeah. So. No, that's awesome. And so going back a little bit to when you were reinvigorated and you really wanted to get back into this during COVID, what steered you in the direction that Grand Central's in now, to the lagers and the kind of like Pilsner Czech style and all of that? Like, what steered you in that direction? Was it the owner, or was it kind of like you, or was it your past? What was it?
So this is like, Grand Central as a whole is it's a passion project of our owner. Like, he opened the brewery because he wanted a place in downtown St. Pete that would have a beer garden type feel, would do traditional European style lager. We wanted to do beers that were also weather appropriate. We have a nice mix of stuff on at all times. We have dark beers, we have IPAs, we do sours, but essentially what we were trying to do is be in an area that, be part of the downtown, not just as a local business, but as a, pretty much as like a charity arm as well. I mean, we have our Brew Good program, which gives money back to local 501c3s. So we're part of the community as well.
Absolutely.
But this was a passion of his, and I feel like lager is the way to go these days. I mean, there was a period there where a lot of people were throwing every adjunct in the book in the kettle. And that's fun. Experimentation is fun. Personally, for me, my palate got a little tired. Like, coming back to just crisp, crushable lager is always awesome. I just felt like I saw eye to eye with what Kevin's vision was for this place.
Absolutely.
And it was an undercalculated, or underutilized, I guess, style that was here. Like, there was not a lot of people making lager. So it was just something that was like, we wanted to do. Green Bench started making lagers. There's a handful of really amazing lager breweries in this area now, but at the time it was just underrepresented. Yeah, we wanted to be on the forefront of that.
No, that's amazing. And so that's going to lead me to my next question, which I think you're going to enjoy. Go ahead and explain the Lucre pour.
Oh, so the Lucre faucets. They are. Lucre's a Czech company, and these faucets have a screen that is. Gotta love this guy. They are Czech style pouring faucets, where you can actually manipulate the flow of beer. They're also known as side pull faucets, which is what a lot of us call them. But essentially, you can manipulate the flow of beer as you pull the handle, and there's a screen that's inside of the nozzle. It's going to break up some of the carbonic acid. It's going to give you a smoother mouthfeel. It's going to knock out some of the carbonation of the beer.
Gotcha.
So there's a few different ways that you can pour on a Lucre faucet.
What are they?
So you could do a crisp pour, where essentially you could just open the faucet all the way hard like you would a regular faucet. You're going to definitely have a little bit more carbonation, a little bit more zip in the mouthfeel. You could do a smooth pour, which is you're actually going to barely open the faucet, little bit of this creamy, rich foam pour into the glass. Then you'll open the faucet all the way. You'll have that a little bit more carbonated beer develop below it, and then you can kind of close it at the end, top it off, have this beautiful, creamy, fluffy head. And then one of my favorites is the Milka pour or milk pour, which is a glass of just straight up wet foam.
Yeah.
And whereas a lot of people see foam and they think it's just going to be, it's going to bloat them, it's going to be filling, it's going to be full of CO2. This is almost more like cappuccino foam.
Absolutely. We did it tonight. It was awesome. Yeah.
It's beautiful. And they're easy to knock back. Really, it's a digestive. A lot of people drink it as like a digestive because it's super smooth. It's also a way for like in Czech culture, if maybe you're a few beers ahead of your friends and you don't want another full one yet, you could either do like half pour, like, or also known as a schnit or snit pour, a little half pour, or you could do a Milka pour, and we just kind of like to knock them back. They're
100%.
super easy to drink. They're not super filling, and they're super tasty.
No, those are fantastic. And so there's only a few of these breweries around here that have side pulls or lucre pours. Why is that? Is it a staple of like where they come from and like what their foundation is, or is it just like a cost? What is the reason? Because I feel like it's only you guys, Grand Central, and I think Barry House has one.
Barry House has them. Green Bench has them. They are for Czech style lager.
Okay.
I mean, we get a little bit more adventurous at times. We put like German pills on there. We put American Light Lager. We put a few different things on there. Right now, we do have a coffee stout on there. I'm not saying I'm breaking any rules, but like there's no rules against it. But like, typically it is used for lager.
Okay, sure, yeah.
But we have played around with it, and like the coffee stout is really cool. Czech dark lager is also another favorite because it gives off those wonderful roasty notes. It's light bodied, but instead of just a regular like Milka pour, you're getting chocolate Milka pour. So yeah, we've done some experimentation on it. We've talked about putting Hefeweizen on there as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Not super carbonated, but just smooth, and you still get all those wonderful banana clove notes. But traditionally, you're going to see them for Czech style lager, whether that's going to be like Tmave or dark lager, or Czech pills, or even Plotnami.
You're close. It's there, dude. The gears are turning. I see them.
Which is like a half dark. So essentially, like Czech amber.
Yeah.
That's what they're mostly used for. But like Barry House has a lot of German influences.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they do a lot of German styles, but they do a fantastic job. Green Bench does. It's just you're gonna like lager heavy breweries in this area is who's going to use those. It's what it's mostly utilized for.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. So I kind of want to shift gears and go into a little bit of what Grand Central is and talk about the Grand Central Cornhole League that you guys have. So Grand Central has a cornhole league that they do it's twice a year, right? You guys have 2 seasons?
Yep, we have a fall season and a spring season. We take a break for Tampa Bay Beer Week right in the middle in March. Fall season goes October to either late January, early February, depending on the holidays. And then we start up mid to late March, and we go till early June for the spring season.
Gotcha. So when somebody signs up for the Cornhole League, what are they getting? I mean, how much do they have to pay? What are they getting? How does it work?
So this is going to be our 6th season coming up.
Okay, fantastic.
We kind of used to do round robins, and we decided to turn it into a full-blown 12-week league. And we've just seen it grow exponentially every season. So essentially what you're getting is we have raised dues, and the reason that we've done that is because we want to give a bigger pot and a bigger prize.
I mean, and essentially, can you get better than that?
Everyone loves that.
100%.
We've also played, like, people in the league are from other leagues around, right. And we've gotten pretty competitive. So, but the thing is, like, some of these blind draw tournaments or some of the other leagues like our rec league. So maybe there's not money involved. You pay to play, but there might not be a prize at the end, or you have to work through, let's say, like 60 teams in order to win.
Right.
Like we keep our league pretty small, like 14 teams max. Normally carry about 12, just for ease. But essentially, like our payouts are pretty high. On average, 600 to 800. Yes, 800, 600, somewhere in there for first prize.
Okay.
So I mean, like serious money. On
no, it's awesome money.
The league dues are 150 per team. We do it as a team sign up because we want you to bring a partner in.
Of course.
We haven't done really like single sign up yet. Maybe that's something we add in the future. But typically, you sign up as a team. It's 150. With that, you also get discounts on beer.
Awesome.
We do $6 pints all night during league play. You get 20% off merch.
Wow.
So I mean, it's kind of like we already do with this awesome like extended happy hour on Mondays, but it just you get the extended happy hour all night. We could work here during the day, like remotely, and then go right into league and just keep on at it. But
absolutely,
so you get discounts throughout the season, and you also, the other thing too is you get 5 games a night. Some of the other leagues, it's double elimination. You get 2 games. If you lose both, you're out right away.
Okay.
Some of them, you get 1 opponent a night. You play 3 games against them. It's best out of 3. It could even be 2 if you lose both. You're assured 5 games a night.
And that's because of the standings, right? You guys have standings?
There are standings. Basically, the standings are just to better your chances for the playoffs. Because we're not carrying a lot of teams, we do a double elimination tournament at the end, and it's all based on seeding. But like, you're assured 5 games a night. You are paying to play. We want to give you those games.
Absolutely.
So, rightfully so, you should be able to play those games.
100%. Yeah, no, that's amazing. So before I get into this Sunday, I want to backtrack and kind of get into some of the beers that you guys have. I want to talk about IPAs because I feel like IPAs is one of those things that's very popular right now, but it's not really well understood as far as people see Mosaic, people see the Citra, people see Galaxy hops, right? What are each of those hops, and what are hops in general? I mean, how do they play into an IPA, and like, how do you choose what profile goes with what when you're brewing a beer? It's a loaded question. I'm sorry,
a great question. I was going to say probably more for like our brewers, but like essentially, there are so many different varietals of hops. A lot of these varietals have been bred over time, and they have been spliced over time to make new varietals. But essentially, what you're doing is, when you're adding hops, you are adding bitterness, you're adding aroma to the beer overall.
Right.
So depending on what you're choosing to use, I mean, there are so many different flavors and aromas you can get off of hops. I mean, everything from fruity, floral, citrusy, piney, resinous, just straight up dank. I mean, there's so many different profiles. So depending on the hop that you're choosing, you're trying to make a certain flavor profile. A lot of the hops that I'm seeing these days are very citrus forward, very fruity, somewhat floral. I feel like there are still plenty of piney and resinous hops. We've moved a little bit away from that. There was a time when like West Coast IPA was just trying to be as bitter as possible. We were trying to, like, in the mid 2010s, just like, how bitter can we make this? Can we blow people's palates away? And there's certain beers that still do that. With the and IPAs, that's a broad category. There are so many subcategories of IPA that have come and gone. I mean, we have New England hazy IPAs, which are huge. We've had session IPAs, which are essentially like American pale ales. We've had God, just thinking off the top of my head, what was the one that we had? Too many of these. There are so many black IPA, white IPA. Black IPA is going to be like it's essentially, or a Cascadian dark ale. So we're talking like a beer that's dark, like a stout, has some roasty notes, but is also bitter, like an IPA. A white IPA, almost done like a Belgian white ale, like orange peel, coriander. I mean, there's been so many variations of IPAs over the years, and it's just essentially it's kind of a catch-all. But it is, as a whole, IPA is still reigning supreme. It is the number one beer style right now, especially in the United States. Like, you can't get away from IPAs. You have to brew them, whether you like them or not. But yeah, it's just, I mean, there are so many hop varietals out there. I mean, we try to, in a lot of our beers, we try to stick to the C hops. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of classic, wonderful hops that start with C that we've used for years that really accentuate your beer. Cascade, Chinook, Citra, Centennial. Those are like the big hops that we use
heavy hitters.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It also depends where you're getting hops from. Like all those hops that I just named, those are going to be like Pacific Northwest, Yakima Valley hops. You know, you're gonna get Oregon, Washington, huge providers of those. But other countries have started to, you know, especially places like Australia and New Zealand have really brought in some heavy hitters. I mean, Galaxy is a huge hop.
Yeah, I've heard Galaxy a lot.
Yep, Waimea, Waiheke, Wakatu, Rakau, like bunch of New Zealand hops, super fruity, super floral. You get some wonderful, like even white grape notes out of some of those hops.
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially it's a flowering plant. It gives you bitterness, it gives you the aromatics, but it just depending on the longitude, latitude, and the soil conditions, every harvest is going to be a little bit different. So hop selection is very important. We do attend some hop selections every year because different regions and different growing conditions, they're always changing. They're never, no two batches are the same.
No, yeah, right.
So, but yeah, it just kind of depends on what you're, you know, as a brewery that brews a lot of IPAs as well as lager. I mean, we want to experiment. We want to play around.
Of course.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
naturally.
It just depends what you're trying to go for. I mean, we have IPAs that are a little bit more on that bitter spectrum.
Yeah.
And then we have some that are more just in the aromatics. You smell the citrus characteristic, you smell the earthiness, but like you're not going to get a ton of bitterness. It just, I feel like we've moved away from the super, super bitter beers of like the last 10 years. Sometimes I miss those. We just, you know, we've just evolved. The brewing community has evolved. We've just changed over time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's all experimentation.
100%. Yeah. So you talk about the brewing community. We've talked a couple times now about the brewing community and how we're losing micro and nano breweries fast.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little more to that, and why are we losing all these microbreweries, all these nano breweries that are starting up in, you know, local spots? Even St. Pete is as an example, but just everywhere. Why are we losing all these breweries, and how can, you know, the brew boys and people that are watching this podcast help?
I think it's just changing tastes. That's probably the big thing. I mean, changing tastes, and also just more competitors in the market, more products coming out than ever.
Right.
You know, spirits are still pretty high up there as far as like alcoholic beverages of choice.
Of course.
But, you know, there's been a huge push for non-alcoholic, whether that's non-alcoholic beer, non-alcoholic spirits. Seen a lot of that over the last few years.
Yeah.
You know, right now, I mean, the bottom line is the younger generation, like the, you know, freshly 21 to 24, they're either drinking very little or they're not drinking at all. It doesn't mean that there's not other vices out there. I mean, you know, marijuana is still a huge one. You know, that's a huge like substitute. People are also, you know, using functional mushrooms. There's also more beverages than there's ever been in the market. There's, like I said, functional beverages with either mushrooms or CBD or THC tonics, kombucha, hard kombucha, cider, seltzer, ready to drink cocktails in the can. Gotcha. And, you know, there's how many different brands of those. And then with that too, we've seen a lot of maybe childhood favorite brands that have also decided to cash in on the alcohol chain, and now there's Now there's everything from alcoholic coffee, alcoholic Sunny D. I mean,
there's a lot
Mountain
of stuff.
Dew. So there's only so much room on shelves. There's only so much tap space. There's only so much fridge space. There's just a lot of competition. But essentially, beer is not the cool guy on the block anymore. We had so much growth so fast.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of competition now.
Absolutely.
So it's not, I wouldn't say it's dead. It's just kind of plateaued. You're just competing with a lot of different alternatives now.
Okay.
So I would say that, it's always about quality. You want to put out the best product that you can.
Absolutely.
But beer is not the only thing anymore. Interesting. Sorry, I'm getting notes.
No, it's all right. Hey, it's all right. No, it's it's all good.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just it's very cool. It's evolved. It's changed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're gonna play a game with you right now.
Okay.
And my man Steve in the back over there is gonna play. Steve, you ready? Rock and roll. Steve's ready to rock and roll. We're gonna give you a beer.
Okay.
It's a Grand Central beer. You're going to taste it. You're going to have zero idea what it is.
Okay.
You got to taste it, sit with it for a second, and you got to tell us what beer it is.
Okay.
All right? And for every one that you get wrong, I don't really have anything to do, but I'll come up with it as you get them wrong. All right. We'll come up with it as you get them wrong. But Steve's going to pour you up. He's going to get you a sample, and you got to taste it, guess what beer it is, and we'll see what happens.
Cool.
All right. Steve, let's go, man. Whenever you're ready to rock and roll, Steve's pouring it up right now. While Steve's pouring it up, this Sunday, September 22nd, Grand Central Brewing with Brew Boys. We're having a cornhole tournament here. It is if you sign up at the door, it's $30 for the entry fee. If you sign up online right now, it's got to be right now. It's $20, and it'll be posted on our Instagram. It'll be posted on our YouTube, everywhere. And here we go with the first beer.
So these are 3 different?
Yeah. 3 different beers. Here's the first one.
Just taking a look at all of them. Just trying to see if I...
Just keep in mind, everybody, Matt here is the GM of Grand Central. So if he gets this wrong, he might be fired. And Steve will take over. That's what I'm hearing anyway. What are you getting there? What are you getting there on the sniff?
I think he's messing with me.
Oh, Steve, dirty dog.
We'll start here.
All right. Here you go. First sip, a little sniff, sip. Tell us what you're getting to. That way everybody kind of is with you as you're going through this process.
Well, I mean, based on color, amber. I would say amber lager. Caramel, toffee notes, a little bit of roasty, medium bodied at best. Real good mouthfeel. Perfect for I would say fall. I'm ready for fall. I've been in the fall mindset.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
it's a good one to have then. Slamming the rest of it.
I'm gonna say that's Vienna lager.
Oh, 1 for 1. Steve gave them the okay. He's 1 for 1 so far. A little sniff on 2. What are you getting on the sniff there?
Light lager.
Checks
not
out.
Not a lot of aroma, but it'll be more on taste here. I have an idea. It's like one of 5 beers, but it'll really come down to taste.
All right, let's go.
Light, crisp, super crushable, easy drinking. This is St. Pietian. No.
Wow. We'll give him one more guess. We'll give him one more guess.
Oh,
and then it's absolutely incorrect.
There is corn in there. It's not a piñata. Mexican lager.
Not a piñata. Not a piñata. Mexican lager. So this is a Mexican lager.
That is tough.
So let's get into the Mexican lager just real quickly. How can you tell from corn to whatever else you guys brew with? How can you tell that this is that?
I screwed myself by tasting the darker first. Oh. Why you gave it to me in that order? Yep.
Steve is a smart cookie, folks. If you don't know Steve, he's a smart cookie.
Having this on the palate first, like, I didn't taste it as much in the first sip as I did the second.
Yeah.
Mexican lager uses flake maize or corn.
Okay.
So it almost has like a slight corn chippy note to it. Like,
gotcha.
you can kind of pick it up. It's a little bit more sweetness.
Okay.
A little bit more body, but I didn't get that at all in the first. Based on the color, I thought it was St. Pietian, which is our American light lager.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then as soon as he said it, and then I tasted it again, I was like, oh no. It didn't have a lot of bitterness behind it, so I wasn't thinking Czech pills, I wasn't thinking Italian pills. So just based on what's on, would have said St. Pietian, and it was not a pinata. Dang. By giving me that order.
Steve's a dirty dog.
Yeah.
All right, last one. Here we go, and then we'll close this thing out. What are you getting there on the sniff?
He's messing with me again.
Steve, dang, dude. What are you getting? What before you guess? Tell us what you're feeling. You got to give the viewers a kind of a insight into the taste buds of Matt O'Connell right now.
It's wine.
It's wine.
It's not beer.
Steve.
Steve gave me red sangria. Just to screw with me. There's not even beer in here. I was like,
well, folks, there you have it. Steve is a dirty dog.
That's pretty good.
He's playing in the cornhole tournament September 22nd. Please come out and beat the heck out of him for giving Matt those sangria. Matt, thank you so much for being on the podcast, my man. Absolutely. Grand Central Brewing, September 22nd. 10 a.m. is registration. Bags up by 10:30. We'll see you there.